On my third day of working for my new boss, she noticed that I wasn't wearing men's underwear. It was just bad luck. Ms. Annapurna entered my cubicle to find me under my desk on my hands and knees, plugging in a new power cord for my phone. My shirt had come untucked and my trousers had sagged enough to expose a brief expanse of pink satin panties with a lady's delicate waistband. She didn't say anything at the time. I hastily pulled down my shirt, backed out from under my desk, and pulled up my trousers as I stood. I hoped she hadn't seen anything. Her lack of reaction told me I'd escaped detection. It turned out she wanted me to copy, collate, and bind a dozen copies of a printout of a PainPoint slide deck about user data retention. It was a simple clerical job, but that was pretty much all I had to do. I had just graduated with a BA in social communication from Big State U, and I'd been lucky enough to get an entry-level management job in email marketing at Big Corp. It wasn't going well so far. I'd just been reassigned to my new manager, and I was eager to please her, even if she assigned me routine tasks well below my pay grade. I copied and bound the slide deck and delivered it to Ms. Perna in her office. "Thank you, Les," she said. "You're welcome," I said, and turned to go. "Wait," she said. "I wanted to ask you a personal question." I grew slightly nervous. "Okay. Are you wearing women's underwear?" I gaped at her, stunned. "What? Are you wearing women's underwear?" I was too embarrassed to admit it. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I would think it's a simple question. To be precise, at the moment, are you wearing pink satin panties?" Adrenaline made me want to fight or flee, but I could do neither. I found myself breathing heavily. How could I lie? She must have seen them when I was bent over, after all. Yes. She gave me a faint smile. "Do you wear them often?" "No," I said reflexively. "I mean." "What do you mean? Have you worn panties to work before today? Was there any point in lying?" "Yes," I said, ashamed. "Are you wearing any other women's clothing?" "Right now?" "No." "Why not?" "I'd be afraid, well, I was afraid of getting caught." "Like I just caught you?" "Yeah." "Do you live alone, Les?" "Yes." Studio apartment. Ms. Perna peered at me. "Do you wear women's clothing at home, or just at work?" At home, sometimes." "More than just panties?" "Yeah." "Are you gay, Les?" "I don't think you're allowed to ask me that." She just looked at me. "No, I'm not," I said. "You're straight, but you like to wear women's clothes? Why are you asking me this? This doesn't have anything to do with my work." "Actually, it does. The company measures senior managers by the diversity of their workforce, and they want us to count employees who aren't white cis males." "Could we classify you as trans?" "No. I'm not trans. I like girls, but I don't want to be one." "It would be just for the paperwork," she said. "I could take credit for you, and my boss could take credit, too. You wouldn't actually have to be trans, just be willing to check a box that will improve our numbers." "If I click trans, will that be added to my personnel file?" She hesitated. "Yes. It's something we're required to track." "Then I don't want to do it." "The problem is, I don't have a category for crossdresser," she said. "I can check gay, lesbian, heterosexual, bisexual, trans, queer, or other." "Which of those comes closest to describing you?" "Heterosexual," I said. "Are you sure?" "Sounds like you're looking for diversity data," I said. Do you have a Hispanic category? Yes. You're Hispanic, she said, sounding surprised. I looked like your typical American of pallor. My mother's grandmother was an indigenous Maya from Yucatan, I said. She married a white American tour guide and moved to Texas. Their daughter, my grandmother, looked white, and she married a white guy. My mother looks like me, or the other way around, and she married a white guy, too. So I'm mostly Anglo, but at least 1/8 Mexican. That's perfect. I can flag you as Hispanic and indigenous, which is awesome. But I was asking about your liking for ladies' lingerie. You can't do that. It's an invasion of my privacy and sexual harassment. I could file a complaint. You certainly could. Of course, if you did, everyone in HR would know you're a crossdresser. Word gets around in HR departments, which you might not want. If I was asked at a hearing, I'd have to testify that I saw you wearing pink panties at work. Please don't. I don't want to be fired. Fired? Who said anything about being fired? I want to protect you, Les. I want you sitting near me, not with those jocks in data analysis. The more time you spend in my office, the less chance there is that someone else will spot your pretty knickers and harass you. Let's keep that confidential, just between us, shall we? Yes, please, I said. Shit. My brand new boss now had blackmail material on me. I had to hope she wouldn't use it. Very good. As part of this process, I'll need to reclassify you from data analyst to executive assistant, she said. A more or less lateral move, but you'll benefit from working more closely with me than you do now. Lateral move? It was another demotion. I hadn't been at Big Corp for long, but even I knew that executive and administrative assistants were really just glorified secretaries. They did clerical work and office chores, and the lower-ranking ones ran errands, fetched coffees, and picked up lunches for their busy bosses. They all dressed neatly, and someone said the women had to follow a dress code. How will this lateral move affect my paycheck? I made the air quotes with my voice, not my fingers. We'll bring you in at the top of the range, but it'll be less than you make now. We'll try to make up for it at bonus time. How much less? You started at, what, $58,000 a year? Executive assistants top out at $52,000. $500 less a month. A third of my rent. This was bad. Why on earth do you think I'd go for that? It's a big pay cut. I'm afraid you don't have a choice, she said. To be honest, you're lucky to be still working here, and you have me to thank for it. When you were originally hired as a junior executive, you signed a contract to work for Big Corp for a 5-year term renewable at Big Corp's discretion. Since then, due to your poor performance, you've been reduced from junior exec level 7 to data analyst level 5. I felt ashamed of myself. When I entered marketing, my understanding was that there would be no math. Imagine my chagrin when, during my first week at Big Corp, I was asked to analyze the standard deviation of actual from predicted click-through rates for various categories of affiliate links. I had to ask for help, and made some rookie mistakes in my write-up. The whole thing was a fiasco, and I was still paying the price for it. As an executive assistant, she said, you've been reclassified as level 4. I hope you can do better in your new job. If you fail as an executive assistant, though, the next step down would to administrative assistant, level 3. I sat there in shock. From level 7 to level 4 in less than 6 months. She was right, I was lucky I still had a job. You said I had you to thank for this? If thank is the right word. It's the right word. When junior execs like you fail, which happens more often than we like, we normally let them go rather than reducing them to individual contributors. However, I'm willing to keep you on my team as an individual contributor. The only slot I have open is an executive assistant. Your contract doesn't allow you to turn down this opportunity. I really have no choice? You can appeal to my boss, the VP of Marketing. She already approved this change, so she will say no. Consider yourself my new executive assistant, starting tomorrow. When you get in, go to HR, where they'll update your ID and brief you on your new role. I expect you'll be with them most of the day. I can't believe you're turning me into an executive assistant. A clerical worker. I have a BA in social communication. I was hired to help run the company's email campaigns. What email campaigns? The board bumped them to the bottom of the priority list last week. Someone should have told you. Email is dead. Marketing these days is all about videos on toxic. So what am I supposed to work on? Whatever I tell you to work on. You will take messages and phone calls for me. You will keep my calendar up to date. You will coordinate my activities and schedule with the assistance of other executives. You will do clerical or other support tasks around the office as I require. I will delegate certain routine tasks to you, like weekly spreadsheet updates. I'm sure you'll find plenty of ways to be useful to me. That's intern work. You're trashing my career. You trashed your own career, Les. I'm trying to help you find a role where you can succeed. Your new position will require changes in your work and appearance in the office. HR will make sure you are fully briefed. What should I do for the rest of today? Nothing. Leave early and be at HR by 9 tomorrow. I'm looking forward to helping you get back on track. Well, thanks, Ms. Perna. Good night. Good night, Les. Your panties looked very pretty, by the way. As I walked to my car in the Peon parking lot, I wanted to cry. Was adult life always this awful? I reported to HR at 10 minutes to 9 on Friday morning and waited in their spacious lobby. At 9 on the dot, a pretty woman about my age entered the lobby and walked up to me. Lester Mudson? I stood. That's me. Hi, Lester. I'm Buffy Mayflower from HR. I'll take you to Ms. Bridget Winter, our transition coordinator, who'll prepare you for your new position at Big Corp. She led our way out of the lobby into a staff-only warren of corridors and offices. We ended up in front of a door labeled Assistant Training. I followed her inside, where we met a tall blonde woman with an athletic body. I found her attractive but intimidating. Ms. Winter, this is Lester Mudson, Anna Perna's new executive assistant, Buffy said. Ah, the male, Ms. Winter said. Thank you. Buffy left. Congratulations on your promotion to executive assistant, Mr. Mudson, Ms. Winter said. It wasn't exactly a promotion, I said shamefacedly. Congratulations anyway, she said. Do you know how to use Megasoft Orifice? Everything except the Access database, I said. Can you write weird macros or Excel formulas? I've heard of them, I'm sure I could learn. Close enough. You've got the technical skills needed to be an executive assistant. You'll mostly be proofreading weird docs and pain point decks. But we definitely need to work on your appearance. My appearance? Should I have worn a tie? A tie won't be necessary, Mr. Mudson. Do you mind if I call you Lester? Most folks call me Les. Thank you, Les. Are you aware there is a dress code for executive and administrative assistants at Big Corp? I heard something like that, I said. You will need to conform to the dress code. Really? I thought the dress code was for women only. It's for assistants only, she said. As it happens, our executive and administrative assistants have always been female. You're the first male assistant I've been asked to dress properly. I assume the women's dress code doesn't apply to me. I asked my boss about that, Ms. Winter said. She brought it up at an executive staff meeting, and they decided that it would be discriminatory to come up with a special uniform just for one male. You'll have to conform to the dress code instead. But I'm not a woman. Don't worry, it doesn't require you to wear a dress, though you can if you want. The way it works is, the company provides a selection of workwear from a famous designer, and you can choose from several styles of skirt or trouser suits, tops, and shoes. As a male, you might prefer a trouser suit. I've seen executive assistants in the trousers, I said. It's definitely not a uniform that a man would wear. We think of them as assistants' uniforms, Ms. Winter said. The trouser suit option is available only to executive assistants. Administrative assistants must choose from dresses or skirts, no trousers. That's discriminatory, I said. We don't think so, and we've won court challenges, she said. Our user data shows a clear preference for female assistants among internal hiring managers and external customer support managers. We can prove it would hurt our business to hire male assistants. So why are you turning me into one? Because the alternative is to fire you. For some reason, Ms. Perna doesn't want to do that, she said. You won't have to interact with the public in your new role, but you might need to interact with customers. Possibly in a support role, for example as hostess for a table of male guests. You want me to be a hostess? That's a woman's job. What does a hostess have to do? Smile, hand out printouts, take notes at the meeting, serve drinks, chat with the guests, flirt very lightly, no touching. You want me to do this in one of those trouser suits? Our data says a skirt or dress will be more effective, but as an exec assistant, you have the trouser option. What if I refuse? I could wear men's clothes of that color and style. Ms. Winter sighed. Refusal to obey a manager's lawful order is grounds for dismissal or demotion at the manager's discretion, she said. You'd be busted to administrative assistant, the lowliest job in the office, unless you count interns and the cleaners at night. I don't want that to happen, I said. Then come with me. We'll head over to Dullard's at West Side Mall. They keep our assistants' uniforms in stock. Try on a trouser suit and see how it looks on you. There are several styles to choose from. The company will pay for your outfits, including shoes. Shall we go? You mean, right now? Yes. My job is to turn you into an executive assistant in marketing. Step 1 is to make you look like an executive assistant. Step 2 will be to make you behave like an executive assistant. We took her car to the mall a mile or two away and headed straight for the department store. In women's apparel, Ms. Winter spoke to one of the clerks, who quickly fetched an older saleslady to wait on us. Ms. Winter greeted her as Sophie, after which they turned their attention to me. This is Les. He's Anna Perna's new executive assistant, Ms. Winter said. Oh. A male? Sophie said. Yes, our first. He needs a complete wardrobe for work. Very good, Sophie said. Come with me, Les, we'll get you a dressing room. She parked me in a booth with a bench and a full-length mirror. Aren't you a pretty one? She said. Let me get some quick measurements. Take off everything but your underwear, dear. Talk about embarrassing. Being told to strip by a total stranger. But it was her job to measure me, and to protect my job, I had to do as I was told. Keenly aware of Ms. Winter's eyes on me, I peeled off down to my boxers. Sophie ran a cloth measuring tape around my chest, waist, and hips. Lovely! With some work on your waist, you'll be a perfect size 8. I'll be back with things for you to try on. What type of panties do you prefer to wear? Boy shorts? High-cut briefs? Thongs? Definitely not thongs, I said. Sophie smiled and left. I turned to Ms. Winter. I can't believe this. Do I really need to wear such frilly stuff at work? Believe it, she said. Ms. Perna told me exactly what she wanted for you. Why does she want me to dress this way? She's an interesting lady. You'll have to ask her. Sophie returned a few minutes later with a shopping basket full of filmy garments in white, black, and pink. I couldn't believe how much there was. What is all this stuff? I asked. Panties, bras, breast forms, stockings, knee-highs, a waist cincher or 2, camisoles, and slips, all in your size. Everything you need to make you sleek under your clothes. Now, take off those miserable boxers. Let's see if these panties fit. I thought stores didn't let you try on underwear, I said. I bend the rules when fitting males. I need to be sure the panties have room for everything that needs to fit into them. Feeling totally humiliated, I turned my back on the women, took off my boxers, and stepped into a pair of panties. I took a moment to tuck away my junk before pulling them up to my waist. The panties were scanty, but had enough room to hold everything they needed to. Very pretty, Sophie said. I just love the look of boys in lingerie. I wish more guys would discover their feminine side. It doesn't do much for me, but I have to admit this one's a cutie, Ms. Winter said. What a sweet little bulge. I wanted to die of embarrassment. Instead, I tried on things and stocked up on a week's worth of all the frilly stuff executive and administrative assistants wore under their clothes. I couldn't say no to panties, but I tried to object to bras, on the grounds that I didn't have breasts. Ms. Winter said I needed breasts to make the clothes fit, and in my case needed bras to hold my breasts, a pair of 36 seafoam breast forms that Sophie retrieved from somewhere deep in the back of the store. The hardest challenge was to shrink my waist. Sophie handed me several unfamiliar foundation garments to try on. A waist cincher, a narrow band of heavy lycra spandex that fastened with hooks and eyes like a bra. A girdle that padded my hips and butt and crushed my waist. A stretchy black garment called Spanx that was similar to the girdle, but without padding. An actual corset, with busks in front and lacing behind. All of them had removable garters to hold up traditional stockings. I had to try everything on in the cozy dressing room, with 2 ladies giggling as they helped me out of each torture garment and into the next. Ms. Winter chose 3 for me, a narrow waist cincher, a padded girdle, and to my chagrin the corset, which reached from my hips to my non-existent breasts, with cups to hold their artificial replacements. The corset was bone satin with spandex panels in the rear, and gripped me savagely enough to make me stand and sit up straight, with the cups thrust forward. Sophie suggested I wear the girdle to model the suits that I needed to try on next. I think you'll find that the girdle will offer the best trade-off between comfort and figure control. You should ask her to buy you another of the same girdle, perhaps in black, so you have one to wear while the other's in the wash. You recommend the girdle, not the corset? Ms. Winter asked. Start with the girdle, Sophie said. Save the corset for a special occasion, like a CEO reception or a work anniversary. Oh, all right, Ms. Winter said. Can we look at the trouser suits now? Absolutely, Sophie said, and left the room. She was back sooner than I expected, carrying a cream-colored blouse, black silk trousers, and a black silk jacket on hangers in one hand and a pair of shoes in the other. "Let's try this outfit first." She handed me the blouse, which had slightly puffed sleeves, a skinny collar, and a cute black bow. I put it on and fumbled with the backward buttons. The blouse's feminine details were embarrassing, but it was quite comfortable, much softer and nicer than the men's shirts I wore to work. I still found it hard to believe I would have to dress as a woman to keep my job, but Ms. Perna and Ms. Winter both insisted. "The blouse fits nicely," Sophie said. "Now try the trousers." She held up a pair of pleated pants in what looked like black silk. I stepped into them. The zipper was on the left side, and she closed it for me. The waist was tight, but the girdle made it fit. "The trousers feel a little long," I said. "Try on the shoes," she said. "There's a pad in each one." The pad was a sheer stocking that barely covered my foot. I put them on, and Sophie slid the shoes onto my feet. They were women's business shoes, black leather pumps with a short 1-inch heel, just enough to keep the hems of the trousers from touching the floor. The shoes were plain, but no one would take them for men's shoes. "Everything fits." "You look lovely," Sophie said. "Very pretty, and very professional." The mirror showed a different me. A feminine me, dressed in silk that draped gently over my fake breasts. "Your hair is long enough to style, so a trip to the salon would make you look fabulous," Sophie said. "Let's try the jacket." She helped me into it. It felt strange. The waist was too high, and the part below the waist stuck out a little, like a peplum. The sleeves were a tight fit and were about 3/4 length, ending well short of my wrists. The 2 buttons were larger and more ornate than men's buttons, and there was no chest pocket. Definitely a women's jacket. "Oh, yes," Ms. Winter said. "Very appropriate for the office." "The bra is uncomfortable," I said. "Why do I need to wear it?" "To create the illusion of décolletage," Sophie said. "In other words, to give you boobs," Ms. Winter said. "Every other assistant wears a bra. You need to do the same." "It's ridiculous," I said. "I don't have boobs. I don't need to wear a bra." The 2 women looked at each other. "Can you give us a minute?" Ms. Winter said. "Of course," Sophie said, and left the dressing room. "Now listen to me, Lester," Ms. Winter said. "You are in no position to refuse to do anything I tell you to do. If I tell you to dress as Cinderella, you'll dress as Cinderella. I'm about to buy you some dignified feminine outfits for the office, enough so you don't have to wear the same suit every day, the way men do. You will wear them and make no objections, unless you want to become a level 3 administrative assistant, lose your trousers, and have to wear a skirt or dress every day. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am," I said, completely cowed. My bosses had me by the short hairs, and it seemed there was nothing I could do about it. She left the room and returned with Sophie. "We'll definitely take that suit, and I'd like to see 2 or 3 other outfits with trousers." "No skirts?" Sophie said. "That tight little bottom would look fabulous in a pencil skirt." "No, thanks, not now." "Not now?" "Not ever, I hoped." "Very good." Sophie left the dressing room. Ms. Winter helped me out of the first outfit. Sophie returned with 3 more combinations of dark trouser suits and light tops. One suit was the same as the first outfit but in navy blue, with a white satin blouse. Another was sleeker than the first, with figure-hugging pants and a blazer over a sleeveless pink shell. The third was so exotic that I hoped I wouldn't have to wear it. billowing black silk palazzo pants a mile around at the hem, a white silk shell, and a long, unstructured silk jacket that flowed over the pants. I had to model them all in turn, crammed into the booth with 2 women and a rack full of outfits. To my relief, Ms. Winter approved the first 2 outfits and said no to the palazzo pants. Not only were they excessively feminine, but they also made me look fat. I now had 3 suits I could wear to work, and any of the blouses could go with any of the suits. There was no hiding that these were women's clothes. I expected I would deal mostly with other women at work, including Ms. Perna and other executive and administrative assistants. I hoped I didn't have to meet or deal with customers, especially not as a hostess for male guests. Perhaps I could stay out of sight when strangers visited. After all, I wasn't a real woman, and real women were what male guests expected to see. Ms. Winter told Sophie we would take all the clothes, and asked her to ring it up. I didn't see the receipt, but it had to be well over $1,000. I would have felt a lot better about my demotion to executive assistant if they'd spent that money on a bonus for me instead of a new office wardrobe. Ms. Winter let me change back into the clothes I'd worn to work, male on the outside, pink panties on the inside. "Back to the office," she said. "You have a meeting with Ms. Perna." When she parked her car, I helped her carry the hangers and bags containing my new work wardrobe up to a small conference room next to Ms. Perna's office. We piled them on the table for now. "I'm officially handing you off to Ms. Perna now, Ms. Winterade. She'll tell you where to put all this. Good luck, Les. You've been well behaved so far. Keep it up." I didn't feel like thanking her, but did anyway. What should I do now? Wait in this room like a good girl until Ms. Perna fetches you. I seethed at her remark. I was not a girl, even if they wanted me to dress as one. I fiddled with my phone for 25 minutes until I saw Ms. Anna Perna walk by the glass door to this room and into her office. She emerged a few minutes later and entered the conference room, where the pieces of my new wardrobe covered the table. "Ms. Winter said your shopping trip was successful," my boss said. "It looks it. Everything fits?" "Yes," I said. "I have to say, though, that I think these clothes are inappropriate for me to wear." "Oh. Why?" "They're women's clothes, and I am not a woman. I don't think of them as women's clothes per se. I think of them as a uniform," Ms. Perna said. "A uniform for executive and administrative assistants, so that they have a consistent appearance across the company. In a way, it's part of our brand. Now that you are my executive assistant, I'd like you to look like all the other executive assistants." "Who are all women?" I said. "I'm a man. The fact that they're all women and you're a man doesn't matter. It's the principle of the thing. As a minority of one, you need to conform to the majority, to avoid accusations of favoritism. If I let you wear a man's suit, how could I tell any other executive assistant that she can't do the same? We'd lose all the benefits of a uniform appearance. It would probably spread to the administrative assistants, and there'd be chaos." I could tell I wasn't about to talk her out of this. "How soon?" "I mean, when do you need to start wearing your new outfits?" "Tomorrow." "But, excuse me, but I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't know how to be an executive assistant, and I don't know how to be a woman. I assume you want me to behave the way other executive assistants do, all cute and borderline flirtatious? I don't know how to do that, especially not with a man. I'll look ridiculous. My incompetence will embarrass you and your employees. Please don't do this to me." Ms. Perna eyed me closely. "You're saying you need training to present yourself as an executive assistant? Both in appearance and behavior?" Anything to avoid sitting at a little secretary desk outside her office for everyone to gawk at. Yes. Since I'm being asked to take on a completely new role, I think training would be helpful. She looked thoughtful. Yes, I agree. A change in plans. I take it you don't feel ready to go into the office wearing one of your new outfits tomorrow? Not nearly ready. Very well. Do you have any pets that require care? What, at home? No. Why? These are unusual circumstances, so I'm going to propose an unusual solution. I suggest you move into my house for the duration of your training. I will attend to you personally, or bring in trainers to work with you. Of course, you'll continue to be paid for a 40-hour week, with free room and board, and the company will cover the rent on your current apartment. We'll cook and eat at home, so I hope you won't mind if I ask you to lend an occasional hand with household chores. You'll have a private bedroom and bath on the second floor, at the opposite end of the hallway from mine. Really? You want me to live with you while you train me to be your executive assistant? Yes, Les. Do you accept? What if I don't? I'm not happy to hear you ask that question, but I'll answer it. I would be very disappointed if you didn't want to be trained for your new job. I might conclude that with that attitude, you might be better off in the less challenging role of an administrative assistant. These constant threats to reduce me to an administrative assistant, what people at work usually call the mere admin. How bad could it be? More demeaning, for sure, always in skirts, doing only the simplest clerical duties, having to run personal errands for the boss or serve coffee and pastries to a conference room full of high-status males. Knowing that whenever I bent over to place something on a table, my skirted posterior would pose a tempting target to men, or even women, who knew that the cute little admin wouldn't dare complain if they patted, prodded, or pinched her adorable little bottom. It was different for executive assistants, who normally were spared the housekeeping chores and private errands assigned to lowly admins. Ms. Perna could wash her own coffee mug, though she might appreciate it if I did it as a favor. I'll be happy to be trained for my new job, ma'am. With my cut in pay, I won't be able to afford my apartment, so I'll gratefully accept your offer to stay with you during my training. I didn't usually call her ma'am, but maybe it would please her. Excellent, Les. Why don't you take your new clothes and put them in the trunk of my car? I'll unlock it from here. She tapped on her phone for a few moments so you can get in. It's in the executive parking lot. When you're done, wait here for me, and when I'm ready to leave, we'll go together. Okay. Excellent. I'm glad you're being cooperative. You're starting a new stage of your career, and I'll be happy to help you make the necessary adjustments. You'll train at my home until you're comfortable in your new role and ready to return to the office. Oh, one more thing. Yes? When you start wearing your new outfits, it'll be awkward to keep calling you Les or Lester. You need a new first name in keeping with your new position. I suggest we start calling you Lisa. Sounds almost the same, but it communicates that you're playing a feminine role in the office. Why do I need a girl's name? Executive assistant isn't necessarily a feminine role, I said, wanting to sound politically correct. Of course it's a feminine role, Ms. Perna replied. Big Corp has 44 employees with the title executive assistant. Of them, 43 are female. Due to unusual circumstances, one is male and she is going to fit in with her colleagues by dressing like any other exec assistant and calling herself Lisa. Do you have any problem with that? Lisa? How could I object? She knew I liked wearing women's clothes. If I objected, she could use that to blackmail me. No, ma'am. Good. Go ahead and move your clothes into my car. I'll see you later. She left the room. I was surprised she was still allowing me to wear my male clothing, except of course for the pink panties. No doubt she'd make me change when we got to her house. I hoped she'd let me keep my suit, shirt, and shoes so I could present as a man when circumstances required. It sounded like she wanted me to wear my new women's outfits at her house. I imagined myself working in Ms. Perna's home office, molded into a feminine shape by my constrictive underwear, wearing a slinky silk blouse and trousers, while I drafted an important memo for her to send to her boss. It was an utterly alien image, but the pantied part of me found it exciting. I moved the 3 garment bags containing my trouser suits into Ms. Perna's car, along with other bags and boxes containing my new underwear, shoes, hosiery, and a few basic accessories, including a black patent handbag. Returning to the conference room, I waited for her to take me home. Her home, not mine, a new setting in which I hoped to reverse the course of my so far disastrous corporate career. As she drove us to her home, Ms. Puna told me her rules for my stay in her house. I would rise by 7, dress and do my hair and makeup, cook and serve breakfast by 8, and clean up afterwards. I would work from 9 to noon, make and serve lunch at 1, and clean up afterwards. I would work again from 2 to 6, make and serve dinner at 7, and clean up afterwards, after which I would be off duty. The work I did would vary from day to day, but would include studying, training as an executive assistant, feminine deportment lessons, and hands-on housework. You know what my schedule is like at work, she said. I need all the help I can get at home. I wish I could afford a maid. I didn't like the sound of this. It seemed as if she was getting a part-time maid, namely, me. It sounded like I would be doing all the meal preparation and cleanup. I wondered if she would make me mop floors or scrub toilets, too. Maybe the stereotypically female chores were intended to reinforce the feminine identity she was forcing me to adopt. When we reached her house, she showed me the guest bedroom I would occupy. The decor was feminine, but not excessively so. I moved all my garment bags and boxes up to the room and piled them on the bed. Put your clothes away neatly in your closet and dresser, she told me. Change into one of your new outfits, and come downstairs. We'll have a drink, and then you'll prepare dinner. It's your first night, so you can keep it simple. See what we've got in the fridge. I don't understand, I said. I think I'm here to learn how to be your executive assistant, not your housekeeper. You're here to be whatever I tell you to be, she said. For 5 years, renewable to 10. Would you prefer to be demoted to admin instead? No. But this isn't work that executive assistants do. When I invited you to live here, I said I would expect you to help with housekeeping. That's all I'm doing. You'll spend a few hours a day on housework, and the rest of your time learning how to assist me in your new outfits. I'll see you downstairs when you're dressed. She left me to put my new things away. I found a 4th garment bag already hanging in the closet. I opened it to discover 3 vintage dresses that had nothing to do with the office, colorful prints with pretty collars, snug bodices, and full knee-length skirts. Packed into the bottom of the case was a stiff crinoline petticoat that evidently went with the dresses. Were these for me? Where did they come from? Maybe Ms. Perna would know. I hung the dresses and my new trouser suits and blouses in the closet, and put away my lingerie in the chest of drawers. I decided to take a hot shower and shaved my face. Would she want me to shave my legs, too, or anywhere else? I decided not to ask. If she wanted me denuded, she'd tell me. After I dried off, I put on my new underwear. Panties. Bra. Breast forms. Girdle. Stockings. Shoes. Camisole. All the blouses were faintly sheer, and I didn't want my lacy bra showing through. Damn! I stiffened in my panties as soon as I put them on, and stayed stiff as I got into the rest of my lingerie. I waited for my erection to subside before choosing a trouser suit. I decided to wear the first work outfit I tried on, with the off-white silk blouse, black bow, black silk pleated trousers, and 1-inch heels. I left the jacket in the closet and headed downstairs, taking with me one of the vintage dresses to show Ms. Perna. It turned out she knew about the extra dresses. Ms. Winter had picked them up for me on a separate shopping trip. They were dresses to wear while off-duty, pretty frocks that an executive assistant could change into after a busy day at the office. You expect me to wear these when I'm not at the office? Why not? Ms. Perna said. They're easier to keep clean than your work outfits, and more practical for doing housework. Tell you what, why don't you run upstairs and put that dress on now? Wear the petticoat under the skirt. I'll help you with makeup. I'm sorry, Ms. Perna, but I just can't, I said. The office outfits are bad enough with the silk blouses, but a dress. It seems like you want to erase my male presence at home as well as at work. Why? Ms. Perna frowned. What I want is a pretty executive assistant who supports me at work, helps me around the house, and is willing to dress the part. I don't want boring Lester, I want lovely Lisa. I want to see her smile and be happy and stop complaining about the clothes I want her to wear. I want her to experience the pleasures of a feminine lifestyle. I'm going to take her to my salon and get her hair, nails, and makeup done. Pierce her ears. Turn a pretty boy into a glittering jewel. A glittering jewel? This was not at all what I thought I'd signed up for. Was Ms. Perna crazy? Or did she just have a thing for feminizing males? Was I the first, or had she done this before, turned an underperforming male employee into an administrative assistant in skirts? Were some of the admins at big corp men like me, forced to dress and pass as women rather than have their secrets revealed? Was she the only female exec who wanted to make her assistant do chores in a dress, like a 20th century housewife? Or did her lady colleagues all have failed employees like me serving them at home? I shook my head to clear it, and mentally kicked myself for being paranoid. A company-wide plot to feminize weak performers? Ridiculous. Ms. Perna was probably an isolated case. If I could get away from her, but how? I wasn't even sure where I was. I didn't know this neighborhood. She now had my wallet, my keys, my phone. If I approached her neighbors for help, they might call her instead of the cops. And if I fled, I'd have to do it in woman's clothes. I could imagine walking into a police station wearing a pretty silk blouse and trousers over panties and a bra, and trying to convince the cops that I was a kidnapped victim, not just a crossdresser. Ms. Perna, ma'am, we need to talk. I don't want to do all those things. I'm a man. I admit I like the feel of panties, but I don't want to dress as a woman 24/7. If you train me here, no one will see me except us, so I see no need for me to wear my office outfits, let alone a housewife dress. I don't want a feminine hairdo, and I don't want my ears pierced. If you want to turn a man into a woman, why pick on me? There are lots of pretty boys out there. But none who have to work for me for the next 10 years, she said. And who have a naughty secret they don't want the world to know. Who like to wear panties and other pretty clothes. I'm prepared to keep a pretty boy like that in panties all the time. Not just panties. All the things real girls wear, gorgeous outfits for work, a few cheerful dresses for home. Do you like the sound of that, Lisa? I shivered in a mix of fear and arousal. No, came out of my mouth. Oh, but I think you do, she said. I think you're lying about wanting to be a man. You're a failure as a man, if your record here is any indication. 3 demotions in less than a year. You lack the drive, the aggressive instinct, that we want to see in our management hires. You're not a leader, you're a follower. More than that, you seem to be submissive, and as a boy who likes to wear panties, you have a feminine side. You're perfect for what I want, an assistant who supports me at home, not just at work, and who's willing to look beautiful while doing it. That's not what I want. To be honest, Lisa, what you want doesn't matter anymore. You work for me now, and I can punish you for misbehavior. If you disobey me, I won't spank you. I'll dress you as a little girl in a fluffy pink party dress, with your hair in pigtails, and I'll take you to work and make you curtsy to your coworkers. Do you want that to happen? Her threat horrified me. No. Please, no. Well, then. All you need to do is agree to be Lisa, my executive and personal assistant. I'll see that you're trained for the office, and while you're living here, you'll help me with housework, dressed however I tell you to dress. If you refuse, I'll demote you to administrative assistant, take away your trousers, and keep you in skirts and dresses. Her threat alarmed me. I'd have to return to the office as your admin? That would be totally humiliating. I'm afraid so. We'd need to replace your trouser suits, of course. You could wear a classic secretary's uniform with a sheer blouse and a pencil skirt, or a pretty office dress like they wore in that old series, Mad Men. You'd have to learn to wear higher heels. You mean, higher than these? Please, no. She raised her voice. Enough, Lisa. I asked you to go up and change into that dress you're holding, and to wear the petticoat with it. Go do that, or I'll have to punish you for disobeying a direct order. I was scared now. Scared she'd demote me again. Scared she'd dress me up and humiliate me in the office. I imagined her showing me off as Lisa to the guys in data analysis, and how they'd laugh at me or worse, find me cute. Yes, ma'am, I said, and turned to go. Wait, Lisa, she said. When I give you an order, you should curtsy to acknowledge it. I don't know how, I said. I'll teach you, she said, and did. She made me do a dozen curtsies as practice. Good, she said. Now, Lisa, go upstairs and change into a house dress and petticoat, like a good little office girl who's off duty. Yes, ma'am, I said, and curtsied, feeling ashamed of myself for surrendering so easily. I went upstairs, peeled off my knee-highs, rolled real stockings up my thighs, and clipped them to my girdle garters. I shook out the crinoline petticoat, stepped into it, and pulled it up to my waist. I selected a dark blue vintage dress with a white Peter Pan collar, pulled it on over my head, buttoned up the bodice, and shook out the skirt over the petticoat. Wearing the dress felt really weird. I was used to wearing a loose shirt on top and tighter pants below, but now it was the other way around, a snug bodice on top, a fluffy skirt on the bottom. I stepped into my 1-inch pumps, hoping Ms. Perna wouldn't make me wear my new 2-inch heels. This was insane. I'd been in her house for only a couple of hours, but already I had lost my last vestige of male clothing, changed into my silky work outfit, and then into what I had to think of as a housewife dress, with an old-fashioned petticoat underneath it. With a deep sigh, I left my room to present myself to my boss wearing this dress. I decided I'd better curtsy to her. I found her in her home office, and dipped gracefully to her. You look much nicer, Lisa, she said, and that was a good curtsy. You see how easy it is for you to do as you're told, instead of arguing with me? Swivel your hips. I twisted them back and forth. My skirts swished around me. I love the sound of petticoats rustling, she said. I don't wear them myself, but on my assistant, they're a pretty touch. Your skirt isn't as full as it could be, maybe I should buy you another petty. No need to do it on my account, I said, letting my skirts fall silent. Well, let's see, Ms. Perna said. What else do we need? A trip to the salon to do your hair, nails, and makeup. Earrings. A few bits of jewelry. New shoes for sure, 2-inch heels at least. Oh, and for doing chores, an apron, and we have one. In the bottom drawer in the kitchen. Go put it on. I fetched the apron. It was light blue cotton with a full bib, ruffled shoulder straps and skirt, and long ties to fasten in a bow behind me. Just what my self-esteem didn't need at the moment. This'll make me look like Alice in Wonderland, I said. Yes, very cute, she said. Here, I'll help you put it on. She slipped the straps over my shoulders, tightened the ties behind me, fashioned them into a perfect bow, and tugged and smoothed the apron into place. In this dress, I felt like the mom in an ancient TV show. Very nice, Lisa, my boss said. Oh, look at the time. Serve me a glass of wine, and then you can start on dinner. In the refrigerator, I found an open bottle of Pinot Grigio and a bunch of vegetables. I poured her a glass and investigated the food supply. In the freezer, I found a bag of boneless chicken thighs. I decided on broiled chicken, potato wedges, and asparagus for dinner. I'd put in the potatoes first, then the chicken, then the veg. I preheated the oven, seasoned the chicken with lemon juice, oregano, and sage, sprinkled the potatoes with paprika, did up the asparagus with dill, and gave everything a light dusting of salt and pepper. You seem to know what you're doing, Ms. Perna said. Where did you learn to cook? In college, I said. My mom taught me the basics, and the other guys in the apartment were clueless. More boys should learn how to cook, she said. Especially if they want to be girls. I'm not one of those boys, I said. Aren't you? But you know how to cook, she said. It's a basic womanly skill. I'll help you acquire others. Can you sew? No. You'll learn. It's a useful skill for women, not so much for men. Instead of arguing with her, I set the kitchen table for two. You are doing a good job, Lisa, but you made two mistakes, she said. First, you did not ask if I was vegetarian. I'm from a Hindu family. You have meat in your freezer, I said. No pork or beef. Chicken and seafood only. You should have asked anyway. I don't eat meat at every meal. You also did not ask if I wanted to eat in the kitchen or the dining room. I'm sorry, I said. I'm not used to living in places that have a dining room. She smiled. Fair enough. In that case, you are forgiven. I won't have to spank you for your mistakes. What? Spank me? You've got to be kidding. Am I? Perhaps not. Behave, and you won't have to find out. I shut up and started cooking dinner. It turned out well. Ms. Perna complimented me on my choice of seasonings, said everything was perfectly cooked, and offered to teach me some basic Indian recipes. I thanked her. After dinner, I cleaned up the kitchen and put the dishes in the dishwasher. She told me not to run it until it was mostly full. I'm impressed by your cooking, she said. Most men are helpless in a kitchen. You can take off the apron now. Is it clean enough to wear again? I looked at it. I think so. Would she want me to wear an apron every day? I'll have to get you a couple more, so you always have one clean. Well, Lisa, welcome to another thrilling night in the Perna household. You've done your chores, have a glass of wine. Would you like to watch some TV while relaxing in that pretty new dress? It really suits you. I poured myself a glass and refilled hers. We ended up watching a classy chick flick, Emma, starring Anya Taylor-Joy in fabulous Regency dresses and, as we saw in one scene, no underpants. Afterwards, Ms. Perna and I had another glass of wine and talked about my situation. She said she was serious about having me live with her to be trained and would not compromise on her clothing requirements. I told her about my doubts and fears, and although she didn't agree to change her plans, her response made it clear she had listened closely to what I said and understood where I was coming from. It was a reasonable discussion, even if I lost. At one point she asked me if I could control myself around women without having to wear a chastity device. I blushed, said it would be no problem, and hoped desperately that she wouldn't try to lock me away. She didn't, but said she would if I ever physically disrespected her. I assured her I would never do such a thing, and meant it. She was attractive, but she was the boss. Even I knew that you don't get to decide whether to have sex with the boss decides whether to have sex with you. After we talked, I felt, well, not better, but somewhat more resigned to what was happening to me. I was in an impossible position, and saw no way to escape from it, unless I wanted to teeter out the door and down the street in my fluttering skirts and high heels, hoping someone would pick me up and not try to rape me. If I called 911 or the cops, what would they find? Me living voluntarily in Ms. Perna's house, dressed as a woman, showing no signs of coercion, confinement, or mistreatment. We forgot to shop for nightwear, she said as I added our glasses to the dishwasher. I'll lend you a nightgown, it'll be big on you, but close enough and we'll have to go shopping tomorrow. There's a beauty routine that I want you to start doing every night. I'll come upstairs and show you. Bathing, brushing your teeth and hair, and moisturizing. My new beauty routine took the better part of an hour. Women did this every night. When I climbed out of the bath, I smelled like a field of flowers. After 100 strokes, my hair hung in gentle waves, unlike my usual tousled mess. After moisturizing, my skin felt soft and smooth. I slipped into my borrowed nightgown, climbed into my new bed in my new bedroom and proceeded to spend half the night staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell happened to me today, and what might happen tomorrow, on my first day as Lisa. I was up before 7, shaved, and immediately ran into my first problem of the day: what to wear. Office outfit, or housewife dress? Was I at work now? I opted for the office outfit, which at least let me wear trousers. Panties, bra, breast forms, camisole, knee-highs. I brushed my hair enough to tame it. Had no makeup, so didn't put on any. Silk blouse and pants, no jacket. Shoes. In the mirror, I had a male head on top of a female body, a weird effect I almost wished Ms. Perna would make me up, just to reduce the dissonance. I headed downstairs, wondered for 3 seconds how to make breakfast without dirtying my work clothes, remembered the apron, and put it on. She'd mentioned she liked a hearty breakfast, so I got out 2 eggs, a slice of wheat bread to toast, and a small potato that I grated with some onion for hash browns. I started the potatoes, which would take a while to cook, but held off on the eggs and toast until she came downstairs, wearing one of her dark skirt suits with a pale blue blouse. "Good morning," she said. "You look cute in your apron." "Good morning." "It's your apron," I said. "How do you like your eggs?" "It's your apron now, Lisa." Scrambled. While the eggs cooked, I made her a cup of coffee. She drank it black. I had her breakfast on the table almost exactly at 8, right on schedule. While she ate, I made myself a lighter breakfast, an open-faced egg sandwich on a slice of wheat toast. "You're on duty from 9 to noon, she said. "Fetch your jacket. We'll get an early start and spend some quality time at the mall. Your first salon visit, and a little shopping." I was terrified at the prospect of going out in public dressed as a woman for the first time. Ms. Perna parked at the far end of the parking lot and corrected my walk on the way to the entrance. Smaller steps in a straight line. Don't swing your arms, elbows in, limp wrists, carry your purse like this. I felt ridiculous, but did my best to follow her instructions. The mall had just opened, the weekend crowd hadn't arrived yet, and her salon was just inside the entrance, so we were able to duck inside without drawing attention. She asked for a particular stylist, a woman named Daphne, and introduced me to her as Lisa. Daphne smiled and led us back to a discreet station in the back of the room. Daphne was kind enough not to mention that I was male. She was professional and polite as she and one of her colleagues, Mona, gave me a full beauty treatment, starting with a waxing that denuded my face, arms, legs, and chest. "We'll give you a Brazilian next time," she said. I asked what that was. She laughed and told me. Ouch! I didn't want that. But if Ms. Perna did, I would have to live with it. Daphne shampooed and styled my hair, trimming it into a cute shoulder-length cut with a center part, and blow-drying it with a styling brush. Mona did my makeup, an understated daytime style except for a pair of blood-red lips. She painted my nails to match my lips. She packed a pouch for me to take home with all the kinds of makeup she used, including the red lipstick. It must have added $100 or more to the bill. I gasped when I looked in the mirror. The makeup was worth whatever it cost. My face had changed. Lester was gone. I was Lisa, and I was a babe. It was a shock to see the difference that professional makeup made. Could I possibly learn to create that look myself? I'd feel safer looking more like a real woman and less like a guy dressed as a woman. Ms. Perna complimented Daphne and Mona on their work and led me out of the salon, quietly reminding me to walk like a lady. Our next stop was at a costume jewelry shop a few doors away. I walked out 10 minutes later with a pair of tiny gold hearts in my earlobes. "You look darling, Lisa," she said. "Now for dullards." Her friend Sophie wasn't on duty, but Ms. Perna chose a set of pretty nightwear for me, a pink chiffon baby doll gown with matching panties, a waltz-length white flocked satin nightie, and an ankle-length light mauve nylon nightgown. I also picked up a pair of black patent pumps with 2-inch heels, and a pair of bone stilettos with 3-inch spikes. Our last purchase was another crinoline petticoat at a square dancing store. "Just to make your house dresses stand out more," she said. "Oh, look at the time. Shall we get some lunch?" "I'd just as soon go straight home," I said. "Why?" "No one noticed or laughed at you. You're Lisa now. Let's go to Contessa. They have wonderful light lunches. I'll order for you, so you don't need to speak." I grudgingly assented. The place was full of women. I saw only 2 men, and neither was what you'd call a stud. We found a discreet table at the back. She ordered salads for both of us. The meal was uneventful, and I was glad when she led the way back to her car. I deposited my purchases in the trunk, and she drove us home. "It's barely 1, and your afternoon work session doesn't start till 2, she said. "I suggest we take power naps now, and wake up refreshed for deportment lessons." I was happy to take off my heels and lie down. I still felt squashed by my girdle, but it made my trousers fit properly, and I was starting to get used to the feeling of my bra. If I was stuck with these clothes for a while, I hoped they'd be comfortable and that she'd let me stay in the 1-inch heels, not my new shoes. I might have dozed briefly, but was up before 2. I checked myself in the mirror, adjusted my executive assistant uniform, brushed my hair, and, for the first time, carefully refreshed my lipstick. I found Ms. Perna in her office, where she was setting up a laptop on a card table with a small office chair. "This will be your desk," she said. "You won't need a big monitor. It'll take a few days for IT to set up a remote account for Lisa, so you don't need to do anything on the computer for now. Let's take this opportunity to work on your feminine deportment." She led me into the living room, where we spent the afternoon working on how I stood, walked, turned, sat, and arose from my seat. The postures were unnatural, and left me with aching muscles I didn't know I had. She was satisfied with my movements for the moment, except the way I walked. I wasn't swinging my ass the way women did. I didn't quite get how to make it happen. She said we'd work more on my butt tomorrow. We spent the last half hour of the session working on my voice, which was high for a man's but not at all feminine. Is this the kind of training that will make me a better executive assistant? I was unable to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. Yes, it is, she said brightly. You'll need a lot more training, but when we're done, you'll be able to walk and talk and present yourself as elegantly as any of the other assistants. No one will be able to tell you're a man, unless you deliberately break out of your role. Thanks. I guess, I said. Tomorrow morning, I'll show you how to sign into your account and show you the folders and files we use for our work area, she said. In the afternoon, we'll work more on deportment, including another lesson in curtsying. Is curtsying really necessary, ma'am? Absolutely. It's the ultimate feminine gesture of respect. But we're done for the day now. Why don't you go up and change into another one of your house dresses? Wear both of your petticoats this time. Oh, and try on your new 2-inch heels. Let's start getting you used to them. 2 inches is a good business height, high enough to be stylish, low enough not to be sluttish. We'll both have a glass of wine, and then we can think about dinner. That is, you can think about dinner. Do I need to do the grocery shopping? Of course. In public? No. You can order online and have it delivered, she said. I'm not going to make you cruise the aisles in petticoats and stilettos. I usually shop at Kruger on Elm Street. Thank you. I went upstairs, changed into a violet and blue gingham dress, pulled both petticoats up to my waist, and patted them in futile attempt to control the fullness. The dress did a better job of tamping them down, but if I moved incautiously, one or both petticoats was sure to peek out from below the hem. I had to admit that the fuller skirt looked better, at least in terms of how the dress was designed. It was more elegant, more feminine, and much more embarrassing to wear. Ms. Perna gushed at the sight of me in double petticoats. That's how a housewife should look, she said. Speaking of which, what's for dinner, dear? A bag of frozen shrimp suggested an Asian-style stir-fry over rice. No bok choy, but she had a Napa cabbage, a can of bamboo shoots, onions, several kinds of peppers, other suitable veggies, low-sodium soy sauce, and jasmine rice. We both chose to eat with a fork instead of chopsticks. Well, Lisa, she said after I cleaned up from the meal, how was your first real day as my executive assistant? I didn't do much assisting, I said. We went shopping for more girly stuff, I got my ears pierced, took a nap, and took girly lessons all afternoon. Don't you want me to do any office work? I'm still waiting for your network account to be set up, she said. There's no rush. You have to look and act like an executive assistant before you can actually be an executive assistant, and you have plenty of work to do in that area. Days passed in much the same way with no progress on my corporate account. Ms. Perna said they were dealing with some technical issue that she didn't understand. She remained at home, dividing her time between training me, attending Zoom sessions, and working in her office. Unable to access any office work, I spent more time attending to housework and began other forms of training. A vocal coach, Ms. Stentor, came to the house and taught me to speak with a softer, breathier voice in a higher register. She also coached me on how women talked more compliments, more endearments, more drama, more hand gestures. The retired owner of a charm school, a formidable older lady named Ms. Post, took over my deportment training, holding me to a much higher standard than Ms. Perna did. For the first time, when I watched myself in the mirror, I saw a woman moving, not a man dressed as a woman. It was an eerie sensation. I became accustomed to changing out of my work clothes into a house dress by 6 o'clock, the end of our working day, and pouring each of us a glass of white wine before starting to prepare dinner. When 2 weeks had passed this way, I asked Ms. Perna after dinner when I would start actually working as her executive assistant. Proofreading documents, taking messages, keeping her calendar, and whatever else she needed me to do. If she had network access from home, why couldn't I? What technical problems were relegating me, more and more, to the role of a housekeeper? You said you would train me to be your executive assistant, but that's not what you're doing, ma'am, I said. What's going on? She sighed. I should have told you this, but I didn't want to interrupt your progress. The terms of your employment have changed. You're no longer working for Big Corp. You're working directly for me. I frowned. What do you mean? What I said. Big Corp terminated your position as of the end of last month, after its annual personnel review. It wasn't my decision, but I had to sign off on it. My team is running smoothly without an executive assistant. I couldn't justify the expense, especially given your performance record. You mean, you fired me and didn't bother to tell me? I raised my voice. No. HR eliminated your position. I just approved their decision. Look, Lisa, this makes things better in some ways. Better how? Am I unemployed now? How am I supposed to support myself? Where am I supposed to live? Calm down, Lisa. Everything is okay. You're still employed, and you're still being paid. Not by Big Corp. By me. I'm supporting you. I'll continue to support you. You can live here, just as you do now. I don't understand. You work for me now. I've hired you as my personal assistant. That's your title now. No more of this executive nonsense. I didn't ask to be your personal assistant. How could you do this without my permission? I didn't need your permission. I purchased your labor contract from Big Corp. They were happy to take $1,000 for it. Your contract now belongs to me, and the terms haven't changed. A 5-year term, with an option to renew. You mean, I can't quit? I have to work for you? Yes. You'll understand that I'm not Big Corp, and I can't match the salary they paid you. I can pay you minimum wage for 40 hours a week. $600 a week instead of $1,000. That's still more than 30 grand a year. With free room and board, it's really not a bad deal. What the hell? You're cutting my pay by more than 20 grand a year. Shush. Living here, you're saving more than that on rent and utilities alone, not counting food. You actually come out ahead. What about my career? I don't come out ahead there. Instead of your executive assistant, I seem to be your housemaid and cook. You're my personal assistant, Lisa, and I'll take care of you. Forget the money, you have a bigger choice to make. You've failed at business and you've failed as a man. You need someone to protect you from the consequences of your failures, and I think the way to do that is by helping you transition from a masculine to a feminine identity. But... Hush, dear. I don't know if you realize it, but in my own way, I've grown quite fond of you. Not the way a woman is fond of a man, but the way a mother is fond of a daughter. I want to help you. I want to help Lester become Lisa, and I want Lisa to be a happy member of my household. Her little speech astonished me. Nothing she'd ever said or done betrayed an ounce of personal sentiment about me. She was a tough but fair manager, nothing more. Now she was saying she was fond of me, wanted to help me. But not as a man. As Lisa, as something like a daughter to her. I knew nothing about Ms. Perna's personal life. Her house contained no sign of a partner or offspring. The ring finger of her left hand was bare. She wore a bindi between her brows, but little jewelry, and not the hairline ornament that married women often wear in India. Her English was flawless, with a subdued accent that was more British than Indian. I assumed she was single, and given her looks and income, I wondered why. Was it possible that she was gay or trans in some way herself? If she was lesbian, I thought they didn't like crossdressers. Why was she so interested in dressing me as a female? More to the point, did I want to let her do it? Did I want to become her personal assistant, a submissive role? Or did I want to leave her and face life like a man, taking control of my own destiny? I knew which role I felt better equipped to play. I was used to her being the boss. I'd failed at my first job, which would make it harder and me less eager to find another one. I'd blown my chance at Big Corp. Where else could I make close to $60,000 with my math-free degree in social communication? Should I give up on the corporate world and work for Ms. Perna? I would have to play a domestic role. She was not cruel, had never been cruel to me. While I was at Big Corp, she treated me firmly but fairly. She certainly had dominated me, and I had been able to accept my subordinate position. It felt almost natural that she led and I followed, and not just because she was higher than me on the corporate ladder. Will you become my personal assistant, Lisa? It seems I have no choice, ma'am. But if you did have a choice? Would you rather work for Big Corp or for me? I made my decision. For you. Why, if I can't match the paycheck? Working at Big Corp was too competitive and unstable. I was a failure. I hated the corporate world and would rather work for you. If I can live here, it's true that I won't need as much money. As your personal assistant, what would I have to do? She thought. Make my life as simple and beautiful as possible. Feed me. Clean up after me. Keep house for me. Take care of my clothes and yours. Run a hot bath for me at night and bring me a square of chocolate before I get in the tub. Lay out a pretty nightgown for me. Put fresh sheets on my bed. Pamper me. Spoil me. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and one more thing, she said. Be a lady for me. Only now do I understand what's been missing from my life, a wife. Not legally, not sexually, but domestically. A stay-at-home housewife who cooks and cleans for me and makes no demands of me, an attractive feminine creature who attends to my needs and has none of her own. But I do have needs. I said. True. You have a strong need to wear pink panties, she said, smiling. I ignored her jibe. Could I keep my trouser suits? They're less demeaning than dresses and petticoats. No. No trousers for my personal assistant. I'll try to return the suits to Dullards. You got very little use out of them, and I've been a good customer of theirs in the past. Then what do you want me to wear? Lisa's new clothes, of course, her panties, bras, slips, camisoles, petticoats, house dresses, hose, heels. What a dominant boss would make her submissive admin wear. Her mention of panties made me stiff in the lacy briefs I was wearing. I felt acutely aware how soft and delicate and pretty I felt dressed like a lowly admin. It shamed me to admit it, but at the moment, I felt no desire to revert to being Lester in his stiff, heavy male clothing. I hope this isn't too embarrassing for a guy with a degree in social communication, she said. It beats calculating the standard deviation of some stupid metric, I said. I feel more like a standard deviation myself. She smiled. No, you're a non-standard deviation, she said. A boy who wants to be what I want a boy to be. A girl. From Lester to Lisa. It's so beautiful to watch, like a flower blooming. I didn't feel particularly beautiful, even less like a flower blooming, but the warmth of her words comforted me. Speaking of flowers blooming, I have an opportunity to reintroduce you to some people you know, she said. What? Who? I'm going to host a party for my team, to reward them for beating their numbers this quarter, she said. Here at my house, and I want you to be my hostess. What? No. What would I have to do? Answer the door, greet my guests, get them a drink, circulate with trays of hors d'oeuvres and drinks, show off your pretty outfit, answer questions about how you became Lisa, that sort of thing. Which pretty outfit? Well, that's the thing. I would like you to serve my guests in a maid's uniform. Oh, please no, Ms. Perna. That would be too humiliating. Yes, it would totally humble you before your former colleagues. I have to admit that I would find that stimulating. It turns you on to see me humiliated? Just as it turns you on. Doesn't it, Lisa? I can't wait to see you in a maid's uniform. It will tell me that you're ready to accept a feminine identity in my service. An identity that someday will allow you to wear your pretty pink panties not with shame, but with pride. No, ma'am. I'll wear the uniform if you absolutely insist, but it won't mean I accept what you're doing to me. Being humiliated doesn't turn me on. Doesn't it? Well, I've already ordered the outfit, she said. Try it on when it arrives, and we'll see how you look. Unfortunately, the maid's uniform looked great on me. It came with its own petticoat, a ruffled, lace-trimmed, three-tier confection and loudly rustling taffeta with a smooth nylon lining. I'd never looked or felt more feminine. As soon as she saw me in it, she absolutely insisted I had to wear it at the party. When the day of the party came, Ms. Perna took me to the salon for a Brazilian wax and hair, makeup, and nails. She had the same treatments. We walked out looking fabulous. She had the party catered by her favorite Indian restaurant, but carefully chose a menu that would appeal to the tastes of her mostly American-born staff. Chicken samosas, deep-fried vegetable pakoras, and rotis with mint and tamarind chutney for appetizers. As entrees, chicken tikka masala, the national dish of the UK, and lamb korma. For side dishes, chana masala biryani, or fragrant rice with roast chickpeas, and garlic naan bread. Ice-cold kingfisher beer, mango lassi, and masala chai for drinks. Dessert was jalebi, picturesque spirals of fried dough redolent of sugar water. While the food was good, it hardly mattered. Word evidently had got around at work. The evening's main delicacy, to be devoured by I in public, was me. The guy they'd known as Les was now a pretty girl named Lisa in a fetching maid's uniform, and everyone was free to feast their eyes, and cell phones, on me. I posed demurely for them and said nothing. Ms. Perna tapped on her wine glass with a fork. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, Les is coming out tonight in his new identity as Lisa, my pretty personal assistant. Lisa, a curtsy, please. Oh, God. I had to do it. I lowered my eyes, dipped with an audible rustle of taffeta, and rose to applause and laughter. Blushed with embarrassment. Now, boys, she said, I've seen how you treat cute admins and interns at work, so 2 words about Lisa, hands off. Treat her like a lady, not like a level 2 bimbo. Got it? Good. Lisa. How about refreshing some drinks? I opened a new bottle of Pinot Grigio and started pouring. This seemed to break the ice, and my former colleagues started to chat with me, ask about my new life, tell me I looked cute. The women commented on my uniform and asked what I wore when I wasn't being a maid. I described my house dresses, petticoats, and foundation garments, and they smiled and said it all sounded too ladylike for words. I had to agree. It was a Friday night, so people stayed later and drank more than they would on a weekday. This kept me in my heels for longer than my ankles would have liked. It also made it necessary for me to discourage Seth, a middle-aged program manager who had one or two tall kingfishers too many, from investigating the satin and taffeta mysteries of my maid's uniform. I finally had to swat his hand to keep it away from my bottom. Ms. Perna saw me chastise him, smiled, and decided she didn't need to intervene. I guess she figured that chasing off drunk lechers was a skill a girl like me needed to acquire on her own. Eventually, the party ended. Ms. Perna took Seth aside and managed to convince him to get a ride home rather than trying to drive himself. When his ride arrived, she steered him out the door and locked it behind him. "Well, Lisa, I would call tonight a success," she said. "You were the star of the show, and a very pretty one. Everyone loved your uniform, and no one harassed you except maybe Seth, and even his unwanted attentions were a crude compliment of sorts. Oh, there were plenty of smirks and leers, and Seth's weren't the only hands on my butt. I overheard a couple of your precious data analysts talking about what they'd do to me if I wasn't your private piece of frilly fluff." "Oh. Which ones?" "Harry and Dick." "What did they want to do to you?" I'd rather not say. It would have hurt." "Oh, those bad boys. Do you want me to discipline them?" "Did I?" "They deserved it, but they'd know I complained to their boss, and they'd have it in for me in the future. I didn't want to provoke them into turning their words into action." Was this why women were often so reluctant to accuse their abusers? "I guess not, ma'am." "Good. I mean, it's understandable, isn't it, given how tempting you looked? You were so cute in your uniform that I'm tempted to dress you as a maid all the time. Would you like that, Lisa?" "No. My life would be one long non-stop humiliation." "Meaning you'd love it, you little vixen. Wouldn't you? Mincing about the house doing your chores, listening to the rustle of your new taffeta petticoats, hearing the click of your heels, feeling my hand caressing your bottom through your pink satin panties, ooh. How I love my wonderful little personal assistant." "Your wonderful little personal assistant loves you, too, ma'am." About wearing those maids' uniforms all the time, if I did that, would I have to call you mistress? "Yes, you absolutely would, you private piece of frilly fluff. And I'd expect you to curtsy before speaking to me." "Oh." I got even stiffer in my panties and made a deep curtsy to my new employer, my maid's uniform making delightful music in rustling satin and taffeta. "Yes, mistress."